This episode of the podcast is being recorded on February 10th, 2020.
Okay, on both sides. Gentlemen, we went over the rules in the dressing room. I want to caution you right now to keep this fight clean at all times, protect yourself at all times, and what I say you must obey. Good luck, Buenos-Suerte. Touch him up.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and good morning, or good evening, or good night. I want you to know that no matter what time you're listening to this podcast, I will love you forever. I will always be there for you, no matter what. And you're probably thinking, why is Abe being so lovey-dovey right now? That doesn't behoove him at all. And you're right. However, it could be that in a few days here, it's the day of love. It's Valentine's Day. So love could be in the air. Not on this podcast, because on this podcast we have broken bones, guillotine chokes, tiger drivers, hooks to the face, stone cold stunners. That's what's in the air on this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. So let's get this show on the road. I'm your host, Abe, and welcome to Have Fun on the Indys. You can catch me on Twitter. You can catch me on Instagram. You can catch me on Facebook. All you have to do is use the handle at HaveFunOTI. That's at HaveFunOTI. There, you'll find all the links to my podcast hosts from Vimeo to YouTube to SoundCloud. So, with those festivities out of the way, let's get straight to it. We're going to start off with some mixed martial arts. Then we're going to move our way down to some boxing. And we're going to main event this bitch with some professional wrestling. Oh, and I'm sorry. I forgot to introduce my co-host this week. It's a bottle of Fireball cinnamon whiskey. And my God, it's gross. I'm sorry. It's gross. I'm sipping it. I'm drinking it, but it's gross. I hate sweet liquor. But it was a gift. So therefore, I'm drinking it. Free alcohol. Anywho, as I said, we're going to start off with mixed martial arts. And first things first, I saw a story on MMA Fighting by Dave Meltzer. And it reads, McGregor vs. Cerrone becomes first streaming pay-per-view to hit 1 million buys. I mean, there's one word for that, and that's insanity. Insanity. Conor McGregor just might be the biggest draw in all of combat sports. From boxing to kickboxing to MMA to Muay Thai, you name it. Besides Floyd Mayweather, there really isn't anybody that can draw those kind of numbers anymore. It doesn't seem like, at least. Khabib draws well. John Jones draws well. Let's see. Manny Pacquiao draws somewhat well in the boxing world. Keith Thurman, those guys draw okay, but they don't draw at the level of McGregor. Floyd Mayweather might be the only one, and he's not doing the whole streaming gig the way McGregor is. He's saying, you want to watch my fights? You pay directly to pay-per-view. No other subscriptions. No anything. You pay me the pay-per-view, and I get all that money. But you got to give credit where credit is due. Conor McGregor comes back after a lengthy absence and starts making the UFC millions. Not just himself, but starts making the UFC millions of dollars. Let's see if we can read some of these things. Somewhere here on this article. Let's see here. This would be the largest revenue take ever for a streaming pay-per-view. The old streaming record for buys was 814,000 for the first Logan Paul versus KSI celebrity boxing match. But that was also at a price point of $8 to $10, depending on when it was ordered. UFC's biggest events this year, which would have done significantly more revenue with the $59.99 pay-per-view and $4.99 ESPN Plus subscription needed, were fights with John Jones versus Thiago Santos and Nate Diaz versus Jorge Masvidal. First of all, the fact that Logan Paul versus KSI held the record at 814,000 buys is insane to me. Not only is it insane, it's kind of an insult. And I understand the pay-per-view was $8 to $10. That way all the children can go to their parents and buy the pay-per-view and convince them to buy Logan Paul because Logan Paul's on YouTube. But can we please have a whole separate category for this stuff? Please, can we have it to where we have real boxing and real mixed martial arts, and then on the side category, you can have celebrity boxing and celebrity MMA? Because as it's understood, Logan Paul and KSI trained diligently. They've now officially, I suppose, they've had pro fights. However, they're not pro fighters. Having one professional fight, having two professional fights, it doesn't make you a professional fighter. In my opinion, you're a professional fighter when you start traveling the world and fighting everybody. Not just who a draw is, but you fight everybody. And you work your way up the way everybody else did. That's first things first. Second, my God, WME must be loving it. Their panties must be nice and moist. Because for someone to draw that much after having to pay a subscription service, and somehow, some way, you were still able to part those people with $70 of their hard-earned money, is insane to me. It's insane to me, and it's happy fucking days for WME. It's the entertainment era, ladies and gentlemen. And for WME, it seems to be working. All these super fights, all these CM Punk fights, it's obviously working for them. And if people don't like it, there's one way to counter that. You show it with your wallet. You don't watch the pay-per-view. You don't subscribe to ESPN Plus. However, nobody's doing that. Everybody's going to continue to bitch about the prices, the fact that pay-per-views have now gone up to like $70. Everybody's going to bitch about the fact that in order to even order a UFC pay-per-view, you have to pay $4.99 a month to ESPN Plus. And nobody seems to care because the UFC keeps on drawing huge fucking numbers. So until that stops happening, we're going to get more of McGregor coming off losses and getting title shots. We're going to get more of Colby Covington getting the main event spot because he has a huge, giant mouth. It is what it is. At the end of the day, the UFC is a business. It just is, the same way the NFL's a business, the same way NBA is a business, the same way baseball's a business. They're looking for maximum profits, and I don't know what to say. The fans are giving them those maximum profits. The fans are obviously enjoying the entertainment era, because if they weren't, all these records wouldn't be broken. That's just my take on the whole thing. So, McGregor drawing so many new subscribers to ESPN Plus, drawing so much money on pay-per-view. It's no wonder that Dana White is talking about immediate rematch with Khabib Nurmagomedov. I mean, you can't blame him. If McGregor gets that championship one more time, expect those numbers to be doubled. Maybe even tripled. Those numbers are going to skyrocket if Conor McGregor becomes champion again. So, naturally, they ask Khabib Nurmagomedov, "Sir, what do you think about Dana White saying that the winner between you and Tony Ferguson is going straight on the McGregor train?" And let's see. Here's an article by MMA Fighting Newswire on MMAfighting.com. And it speaks about that. So let's take a gander here, shall we? Oh my God, my throat. All right. So let's read this. This was Khabib talking after a charity event. I think it was over in Russia somewhere. So it says, I'm surprised that people even question me about a rematch. It seems that people want to continue the festivities after that fight. Everyone saw what happened in the octagon. I controlled the fight every step of the way. I did everything I wanted to him. He even gave up. How can we even discuss a rematch? We can only talk about continuing the festivities and making money. The question is, do I want that? And it goes on. He was pushed on and asked again if a rematch interested him in the least bit. And here's what he answered. And it's hilarious to me. No, not at all. When a theoretical figure of $100 million was proposed, the Eagle did not change his tune and answered with a question of his own. And here's the kicker, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what you can take a big spoonful of this and shove it down your throat for all you money-grubbing people. This is what Khabib Nurmagomedov said. Because there was someone offering $100 million to host a fight in Saudi Arabia. And Khabib's answer was, why do I need that kind of money? There are so many organizations, for example. There's not only football for the blind, there's Sambo and other sports, Nurmagomedov said. Let the UFC give it to them if they don't know what to do with the money. But giving me $100 million to beat up that idiot again, I don't think that's rational. Boom! Now that is a grenade to the face. Because Jesus Christ, if there is ever a man who you can tell your kid to look up to, it's Khabib. It's Khabib 100%. And people can bitch and cry about his acquaintances, about what he did after the McGregor fight, after he hopped the cage. People make mistakes. People make mistakes. And things got out of hand. And quite frankly, it's not excused, but can you blame the guy? His family was talked down on by his opponent. His religion, who he is as a person, was all put out there in a vile, vile way. We all remember that bus attack by McGregor. We all remember all of that. I don't even need to recap it. And the biggest thing I get out of this article, after I read some of the comments, and not just the comments on this website, but on forums, Twitter, etc., it's unbelievable to me how most people can't grasp the fact that there are folks out there who value themselves, their ethics, their culture, and their morals more than money. And I know that's a hard concept for anybody to grasp, especially here in the United States, where it's the land of entertainment, the land where if you're not in debt, you have nothing. Hey, there's a reason why credit cards exist, right? There are people out there who, once they get a certain amount of money, don't need more. Khabib Nurmagomedov fights for money, obviously. All these guys do. They need to make a living. And he gets to do something he loves to make a living. He's not going to go around the world fighting for free or working in any kind of job for free. But just because he knows how lucrative he can be, just because he knows how much money his brand can bring in and how much money he can make, doesn't mean that the man lives at the whim of the almighty dollar. How people don't understand this is beyond me. I, for one, bow down to Khabib. I, for one, look up to Khabib. And I, for one, hope that one day a lot more people have that mindset. Go out there. Get yours. Make that money. But don't let that money rule you. Because the moment you do that is the moment you start falling into the black, black hole that is loneliness. Because there is a little bit of truth to the old saying, money is the root of all evil. Just putting it out there, folks. And moving on. Let's see here. Here we go. More entertainment era news from the UFC. An article on Colby Covington. Colby Covington well, first and foremost, to give credit, this article was written by Damon Martin on MMA Fighting. I think it was a transcription of a lot of the stuff Colby Covington said on Ariel Helwani's MMA show. But man, this entertainment era makes it real hard to root for guys sometimes. Colby Covington isn't like McGregor per se. In my opinion, Colby Covington has more of the MMA skills than McGregor. He's the more complete package than McGregor. Even if he did take this whole make a character and blow it up 100 times in front of the cameras. But here's what the article's about. They interviewed him about his loss to Usman. They interviewed him about a plethora of things. And here's some of the quotes during that interview. Hold on here. Let me see if I can find this. Okay. Hold on a minute. If I can, I'm completely disorganized, or it's this fireball whiskey that's destroying me. All right. Okay, here's one. Found it. So here's some of the things he said about the fight. Okay, so, and I quote, "Are the people that stupid and that dumb that they can't go rewatch the fight and analyze that and say that's a complete momentum shift in the fight? I kick him in the liver, I'm about to fold him up and hit him with shots, and then I go from that to him recovering fully because he gets a 5-minute break." Pretty much saying that it wasn't a nut shot, that it was a kick to the liver, and Kamaru Usman got lucky. Let's see, here's some more quotes. "I kick him in the right side of the head and land a high kick and wobble him," Covington said. "He's sliding on the octagon with his feet, and I go to chamber another kick, and I barely maybe graze my pinky across his eye. Oh, eye poke. But he doesn't even sell the eye that I poked, the left eye. He sells the right eye. That's how bad of an actor Marty Fake Newsman is." Jesus Christ, dude. For fuck's sake. Let's see if we can find a couple more here. All right, and I think we're going to end it with this, or some of these. Sorry about that, folks. Coughing and throat issues. All right. So, and I quote, here's Covington talking about the fight some more. "What could be more wrong and corrupt that somebody could do that? For people not to see that and be clearly not biased about their opinion is absolutely pathetic. It was 2 against 1 that fucking night, December 14th at UFC 245, Covington said. It wasn't one-on-one. I got robbed of a one-on-one fair fight. That motherfucker made a clear difference in that fight. And if Marty Fake Newsman didn't have that fucking ref, I'd be world champion right now. And I'm going to get my fucking rematch, and it's going to be a different story." Man, all in all, after reading this whole article, and trust me, there is just a slew of a lot more quotes. Some of them very entertaining. No one's going to say that Colby Covington is not entertaining. His shtick works, and his shtick has got him to the White House and in main event slots in the UFC. But dear God, why can't he just accept the loss? Chael Sonnen is the master of talking smack. Chael Sonnen brought a slice of professional wrestling into the octagon, into his octagon interviews, into his backstage interviews, and it was awesome. But when he would lose, he would admit it. Every time he would lose, he would admit it. He'd say, "It was me. He won fair and square, and I didn't get the job done tonight." What happened to that? What happened to the ethics of mixed martial arts? And I know a lot of people say, "Oh, it's a fist fight. It's a fight. It's not mixed martial arts. It's a fight." It is a fight. But it is mixed martial arts at its core. It's mixed martial arts at its core. And it boggles my mind how someone like Colby Covington, who's competed his whole life, can admit a loss. A loss isn't going to hurt him. A loss isn't going to make his stock drop. That fight was insane. That fight was competitive down to the very end. So I don't understand why he can't just accept this loss, move on, and get the rematch eventually, which he will. Which he will after he gets through his injuries. He continued on to say that he never broke his jaw, started smiling at the camera. Look, my jaw's not broken. If it was broken, it'd be all jacked up. Fine. Say your jaw wasn't broken, that you weren't hurt as bad as the media said. Talk about how you gave Usman the fight of his life, how your guys' fight is probably fight of the year. Say whatever you'd like, but at the end of the day, accept the loss for God's sake. Accepting that loss will make you look a lot more of a man than coming out here on Ariel Helwani's show and acting like you're in the WWE. Save that for the buildup of the fights, not post-fight when you show everybody that you don't know how to be humble. Hey, but I guess I'm not the one making hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's just weird to me how he figures that accepting a loss to Usman is something to be ashamed of. Usman is the top of the pedigree. Usman is elite. He is a premium UFC fighter. There is nothing, anybody who loses to Usman is not going to come out weaker for it. Now, while Colby Covington has nothing to be ashamed of for losing to Usman, it is what it is. Now, if Colby Covington is ashamed because he talked so much shit and couldn't get the job done against Usman, that's on Colby Covington. He needs to get a sports psychologist, psychiatrist, or somehow figure it out mentally. Because it is what it is. The reason why you feel so embarrassed and the reason why you're coming out with all these insane allegations of fake ref, fake Nevada State Athletic Commission, fake everything, is because you talk so much shit. And all that shit that you spewed out got picked up and it got rammed down your throat. And that's the reality of things. All you have to do is turn on that pay-per-view. And everybody can see it for themselves. So, with those two things out of the way, this past freaking weekend, MMA had a terrific show. They had Jon Jones, quite possibly the greatest fighter of all time. It was UFC 247, Jones versus Reyes from the Toyota Center in Houston, Texas. Oh, man, and here's the insane part. While it was a great night of fights, fucking great night of fights, the one thing that gets talked about more than anything was how Houston, Texas was having issues with the judging. And it started off super early, too. Started off at the prelims. It started off at the prelims with Andre Ewell defeating Jonathan Martinez by split decision. When it was so obvious that Jonathan Martinez probably won that fight. And if it wasn't that obvious, here's something that was obvious. One judge had that fight 30-27. That makes absolutely no fucking sense at all. 30-27. The other judges had it 28-29 and 29-28. A 30-27 for Ewell? He won every round? That's impossible. And that's where the judging festivities begin. Because as the night goes on, it gets even crazier. But here, let's look at some of the fights. Actually, we're not going to look at the other fights yet. Because as I said, this shit started off at the early prelims. And then it continued on the normal prelims. First, it was Lauren Murphy versus Andrea Lee. They gave it to Lauren Murphy by split decision in a fight that was close, but boy, oh my God, another 30-27. Another 30-27 in that fight. A fight that was razor thin close, that quite frankly, a lot of people had Andrea Lee winning. And here's the insane part. That fight was scored horribly. And in the middle of that fight, Joe Rogan proceeds to say, oh, look, one of the judges isn't even watching the fight. And there is no chuckles on this one, ladies and gentlemen. There is no funny business here. Joe Rogan and Dominic Cruz, after that Ewell Martinez fight, decided to start looking at the judges during the fights to see if maybe their eyes are fixated on a different position when the fighters are on the ground, or maybe they're looking at certain things besides the feet and hands when they're standing and striking. And in the middle of the fight, Joe Rogan says, "Oh, look, one of the judges isn't even watching the fight." A minute or so passes, and Joe Rogan says, "This is unbelievable. That judge is now talking to the commissioner and still not watching the fight." And then we get a 30-27 for Lauren Murphy, Andrea Lee. What the fuck are we doing, Houston? We know you're insane, Houston. We know that you have issues. Actually, it's not Houston. It's fucking Texas. We know the issues you have with judging, Texas. We see it in boxing all the time. And now it's bleeding over into mixed martial arts? Insanity. Insanity. But before we get to the main event of fucking judging mishaps, let's go through the card a little bit. There's about 3 fights I'd like to talk about. First one, the Black Beast, Derek Lewis versus Ilir Latifi at heavyweight. Latifi moving up to heavyweight. That weight cut was draining him way too much when he was going down to 205 pounds. Lewis was fucking incredibly over with the crowd. He was a home star, and, you know, he was over. People love him. People love him no matter where he's at. He could be at home. He could be on the other side of the world, the other side of the country. Derek Lewis is a good character to watch. He's hilarious, and boy, can he drop bombs. But first round tells one hell of a story. Latifi doing not so shabby, and Latifi absorbing heavyweight strikes and not folding in the least bit. He was absorbing those shots like there was no tomorrow. Derek Lewis was incredibly on point with his takedown defense in this fight. And he started using knees and his feet and kicks and jumping knees often. Fucking often. Derek Lewis was on point. Up to round 3, and the fight had that vibe where anything can happen. Latifi starts using Greco to take Lewis down. And when I mean take Lewis down, I mean some of those Greco-Roman takedowns looked like he was ragdolling Lewis. It just looked insane to see because Lewis is obviously a lot bigger. Latifi controlled Lewis on the ground often in that last round. In the last minute of the fight, Lewis was throwing his giant-ass hands violently, very violently, and with very bad intentions. Almost takes Latifi out. Derek Lewis makes it to the end of the fight, and winner by unanimous decision, Derek Lewis. And then we had one of my favorite fighters in the women's division. The Bullet, Valentina Shevchenko versus Caitlin Chukagian for the 125-pound championship. First round was all technical skills. Valentina managed a takedown here and there at one point. A few seconds later after that takedown, wham! Elbow to the face, and Caitlin is immediately busted open. Crimson mask right away. Round 3 comes along, and Valentina Shevchenko amps up the viciousness. Caitlin goes for a kick. Valentina catches it, takes her down, puts her in the crucifix position, and Jesus Christ himself wouldn't have been able to escape Shevchenko because a thunderstorm of punches and elbows ended the fight. Winner by TKO and still flyweight champion of the world, Valentina Shevchenko. Awesome fight. Valentina is quickly ramping up those wins. She is quickly becoming a face that people aren't going to forget. She is savage. And then we get to the main event of the evening. Jon Jones comes out. Actually, the main event of the evening is Jon Jones versus Dominic Reyes for the light heavyweight championship. Dominic Reyes comes out, looks nice and ready, looks relaxed, looks like he's done it 1,000 times. Then Jon Jones comes out, and Jon Jones flat out looks like he was born and bred for this shit. He was born and bred for these moments, and he was born and bred to be a champion. It just looks that way in the lead up to the fight, in the way he entered the octagon. He has that presence. And we start the fight. Round 1 starts, and Reyes is looking dangerous, and quite frankly, he's looking like championship material. After round 1, everybody's going, what the fuck? Oh my God, Dominic Reyes is beating Jon Jones. Oh my God, Dominic Reyes is going to do to Jon Jones what Andy Ruiz did to Anthony Joshua. This is what we're witnessing. At one point, he knocks Jones down with a body punch. And from there, Dominic Reyes is in the zone. You can see it in his eyes. You can see it in the way he moves. And you can see the passion and the sacrifices oozing out of him. You could feel it. Round 3 comes along, and Reyes is almost landing at will. Leg kicks over and over. Hooks over and over. By the time round 3 ends, in my opinion, it was 3-0 Dominic Reyes. By the time round 5 comes along, in my opinion, it's 3 rounds Dominic Reyes, 1 round Jon Jones. Super close fight. Round 3 can be debatable. Super close fight. And we hit round 5. Round 5 comes along, and Reyes hasn't been here before. Dominic Reyes has maybe trained for 5-round fights, but he's never been in a 5-round fight. He's never gone the distance of 5 rounds before. He looks exhausted. But even looking exhausted the way he did, he was never out of the fight. He was never out of the fight. And him and Jon Jones made this pay-per-view, made this main event, a main event to remember. It was insanity. It was a wonderful main event. And then we go to the judges. Here's how they score it. First judge, 48-47. Second judge, 48-47. And final judge, 49-46. Can someone please just end me? Grab my face and slam it against the wall. 49-46? Are we watching mixed martial arts? Is this guy sitting there at the fucking judging position and doing his grocery list? Need some fucking milk, some bread. What the fuck is going on? Winner by unanimous decision and still the champion of the world, Jon Jones. And it's sad to say that people aren't probably going to remember this fight for how great it was. They're going to remember how fucked up the judging was. The judging was horrible. It was horrible for the main event, and it was horrible throughout the night. A lot of fans had Dominic Reyes winning. They had Dom winning rounds 1, 2, and 3, and Jones winning 4 and 5. Other people had Dominic Reyes winning rounds 1 and 2, and Jones winning 3, 4, 5. Personally, as big of a Jon Jones fan as I am, I had it for Dom. Dominic Reyes, in my opinion, won that fight by 1 round, and that was round 3. And of course, the first thing they start asking the media at the post-fight press conference is they asked Dana White, what's up with the scoring? And Dana White didn't lie. Dana White said the scoring was all over the map. He apparently asked a bunch of people what they thought about the scoring or who they thought won. And hell, he asked Joe Silva, former matchmaker at the UFC. He had it a draw for some reason. Kevin Iole had it 3-2 to Jones. And he himself, going into the last round, he had Dominic Reyes 3-1. So he kind of had it the way I had it. And it's insane. And it's a very... Dana White, when it comes to talking about athletic commissions, has to kind of walk on eggshells at times, it seems like. He has to walk on eggshells because these guys are the ones that are giving him his promoter's license. These guys are the ones that are licensing his fighters and allowing him to make money in those states. So here's one of the quotes that he said in regards to all this fucking controversy. He says, "But the reality is, who gives a shit? We're not judges. None of us are judges. The judges call the fight, and that's that." That's rough. It's rough, but what's he going to do? Start throwing everybody under the bus? He did go on to say, as far as the judging and the reffing tonight, do I think it was perfect? I do not. I think that we need to do some work down here. And conversation started going to the route of, these guys don't judge MMA often. These guys are more of boxing guys. Yada, yada, yada. And in my head, I'm thinking, why the fuck is it so hard? Why is it so hard to get maybe retired fighters to be the judges? Why is it so hard to maybe get referees that have been in the game for a very, very long time? Why can't you get them after they retire to judge the fights? It would be a lot better than these guys that come from boxing who half the time can't even judge boxing correctly. Yet you're going to put them next to the cage in a sport that has a lot more aspects to it than boxing does. It's unbelievable to me. It's insane to me that these judges are put there with these guys' lives in their hands, pretty much. These guys' livelihood. From the prelim guys who are sitting there saying, my God, I finally made it to the UFC, and then they get screwed, to world champions like John Jones, who had nothing to do with the judging, by the way. Had nothing to do with the judging, yet he's getting shit for it because it was given to him. Texas, let's get better. Just get better. And that includes your drug testing in boxing. What the hell was that? A long time ago over in Texas, where Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. tried to go there. And for some reason, first I ever heard of it, there was absolutely zero drug tests ran for that fight. Once again, Texas, get fucking better. Get like your barbecue. I hear great things about your barbecue. Why can't you be like your barbecue? Alrighty then. Now we're nearing the end of the MMA segment, so we're going to go straight to the dirt sheets. Let's see what happens. Let's go to MMAfighting.com first. Oh, wow. So the Texas Commission applauds passion everyone is exhibiting on UFC 247 judging controversies by Stephen Morocco. Okay, so apparently the Texas Athletic Commission put out a statement. Let's read some of these real quick. All right, here we go. As in all athletic events, athletes, teams, judges, fans, and media representatives can and often do have differing opinions about what happened in a combative sports match. Read the statement, which was sent to MMA Fighting and MMA Junkie in response to a list of questions about officiating issues that emerged during and after the event. Texas Department of Licensing and Regulation applauds the passion everyone is exhibiting about this sport. Let's see here. And selecting ringside officials, TDLR takes into consideration recommendations made by the promoter. Spokesperson Tella Mange wrote in the statement, As with all events, the Athletic Commission works closely with promoters to ensure the quality and experience of referees and judges to protect the health and safety of the fighters. I don't know about that one, because I get a very, very strong feeling that it might be said that the organization, aka the UFC in this case, has a hand in picking the judges and the referees, but that is just a load of crap. I guarantee they have very, very limited power when it comes to that. It's the United States government, for God's sakes. They're not just going to let the UFC police themselves. Let's see here. In response to a question about the judge accused of not watching the Murphy versus Lee bout, spokesperson Mange wrote, "One of the advances that UFC has made in the past several years has been to provide small video monitors below the floor level of the octagon for each judge to more closely monitor matches." Below the floor level of the octagon? Asked whether the judge was in fact looking at the monitor, Mange implied that was the case, writing, "It's my understanding that the judges use those monitors when they cannot clearly see what's happening in the octagon." Which makes sense. I've seen it in boxing. I've seen it in MMA where judges have a monitor, however, below the floor level of the octagon. I really don't understand that. Below the floor level of the octagon would be on his desk, right? On the small desks that they have in front of them. I'm sure it's not literally on the floor, which is where he was looking. Who knows? I wasn't there. The whole thing is weird as fuck. I mean, their statement, it didn't reveal too much. It doesn't make them look like complete shit. The scoring of the event made them look like complete shit, but we'll see what comes out of this. If this shit keeps happening, they're going to be known as New York Junior. We all know how insane New York has been with some of their decisions when it comes to the UFC visiting them. It hasn't been that great, but they've been improving. But hell, it is what it is. Let's see. Let's move on here. Rafael Lovato Jr. relinquishes Bellator middleweight title due to ongoing medical condition. It's a sad story. You should listen to him on the Joe Rogan podcast. He discusses all of that. Oh, here is a doozy. Something that was talked about after that UFC 247 event. Here's an article by Damon Martin on MMA Fighting. It says, Invicta FC to introduce open scoring during trial run at upcoming Phoenix Series 3 event. Holy shit, the open scoring might not be such a bad thing. I've seen it in other combat sports. We'll see how it works out in the UFC. That means that after every round, it's going to be made public what the score is. Man, that can that can be great. It could be that it's the final round and the fight is super close. The fighters become aware of what the score is, and then they start just slamming each other all over the place and start fighting like wild animals. Or one of the fighters can be incredibly ahead, listen to the score, and maybe start playing it super safe. Let's see. Let's read some of this. Let's see if I can find anything. Nothing really of substance. Let's see here. Open scoring essentially reveals how the judges are scoring a fight after each round. At the upcoming Invicta event, all three judges' scores will be collected after each round and then provided to the corners of each fighter as well as the promotion's broadcast team. The scores will also be displayed in a graphic during the broadcast for the audience watching the event on UFC Fight Pass. Holy shit. Invicta doing the damn thing. I wonder how that's going to work out. That's super interesting. It's not a bad thing. We'll see what happens. I really don't see them doing that in the UFC, though, but I'm sure they'll figure it out. Oh, here's another one. On MMA Fighting, UFC selling replica BMF title won by Jorge Masvidal for $850. I mean, can you blame them? That thing is pretty freaking popular. The only thing people bitch about is the fact that it's silver. It's not really gold. And people are already laughing. $850 in the comments. $850, laugh my fat ass out loud. Now Nate Diaz finally has a chance to wear BMF gold. I would buy this if my pants had larger belt loops. People are crazy online. I don't blame them for selling it. I think $850 for a straight replica isn't crazy. I'm sure the quality is fucking divine. Let's see if we can find one more. Oh, here's the last one. MMA Fighting by Damon Martin. Ex-champ Nico Montano out of fight against Macy Chiasson at UFC Rio Rancho. Man, what happened to this girl? Nico Montano burst out of the blue when she won that Ultimate Fighter belt. Or won the Ultimate Fighter, which in turn got her a championship. And she's been nowhere to be seen, to be honest with you. I think the last time she dropped a unanimous decision to Juliana Pena, which there's another one. I think she has a fight lined up here soon. But Juliana Pena was close to being a star before. I'm thinking she got injured and then she got pregnant and all kinds of stuff happened. Well, we'll see what happens with all that. Now let's move on to some boxing. We make our ways down the aisle into the boxing ring. All right, let's see here. Oh, here's something that we didn't get to talk about this last podcast, and it was about Jojo Diaz versus Tevin Farmer. Crazy upset. And my God, Jojo Diaz, if he doesn't inspire you, you don't have a heartbeat. He won that fight with the huge gash over his eye that could have been stopped at any moment. But he showed heart. He showed determination. And he never fucking gave up. Here's an interview he did with Radio Raheem immediately after the fight in the locker room after he was being tended to by doctors. Let's take a look at some of the let's listen to some of the audio of this interview. Radio Raheem, till this day. I'm sure he remembers that. All right, let's see here.
I knew that it was really bad, but the doctor came in. He was like, "Yo, you want to fight through it?" I was like, "Yeah, let me fight through it." I mean, it was a championship fight. I'm not gonna let this third one go by, so I just bit down and fought through it.
Jesus Christ! As he's standing there with the fucking gash over his eye, that, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like a vagina. Looks like a giant freaking vagina. Dear Lord. His eyelid looks like it was trying to run away from his face, to be quite honest with you. It looks worse now than when it was in the ring. Jesus Christ. But even with that gash on his face, you can feel his heart in the ring, and you can definitely hear his heart in this interview. So here's a couple of more quotes. Let me see if I could find this one. All right, here we go.
Everything's good. I want to make sure that going into the title fight again, I'm going to be the A side, so I want to make sure that I'm 110%. I'm not going to, rush anything. I'm going to take my time, make sure that I'm fully well prepared and fully healthy, so I could beat his ass again.
Listen to that. Speaking like a true boxer. Not just inside the ring, but in the back when it comes to his career. I'm the A side, and I'm going to make sure I'm fully healed and healthy first. Fuck yeah. Fuck yeah, you're the A side now, Jojo Diaz. You're the A side because you have the championship belt. The championship belt, which means you're one of the best in the world. And I've said it time and time again. Boxing takes and takes and takes, and just like every other combat sport, it rarely gives back. So now that Jojo Diaz sacrificed and bled and sweat and went through all those training camps and had to go through the ridicule of losing his previous title shots and having everybody call him a wash-up After all of that, he gets the belt, and he's not just some idiot who sits there and says, I'll fight anybody. I'll take whatever kind of money they give me. I just want to keep on fighting because I love fighting. That's all well and good, but Jojo Diaz, while he loves all those things, he understands, just like everything else, it's a business. And he understands that he's sacrificed way too much. And he understands that he's put in way too much time into this sport to grab a championship and just let the boxing world run all over him. Good for him. He is the A-side. And I hope during contract negotiations, he is one hard motherfucker to deal with. Because he deserves it. He deserves the money and he deserves the accolades. Let's go one more. One more here.
Happy knowing that I had a lot of doubters. A lot of people were talking bad about me. A lot of people were saying that I didn't have a shot, that I'm washed up. But that just motivated me. And I want people to know that whatever people tell you, man, it's fuck them, bro. As long as you work hard and as long as you're disciplined and as long as you know what you're capable of doing, anything is possible. You just got to put in the work and believe in yourself, and you can achieve anything. And here I am, man.
Did you hear that, everybody? No matter what anybody tells you, tell them fuck you. Because no matter how hard you work, no matter what it is you do, you're always going to have somebody in some corner somewhere who's not going to like it. You could be fucking Mother Teresa saving the world, and there's going to be people that don't like you. He's straight up telling you, with all the bruises and bumps on his face, not only from boxing, from life. He is living proof. All you have to do is keep on following your dreams. And no one's saying it's going to be easy. And no one's saying you're always going to win. And no one's saying you might reach that dream at the end of the day. But as long as you have a set path and as long as you have a dream, your quality of life will improve. That I can promise you. That is what's proven by Jojo Diaz. What I took away from this whole fucking interview is quite simple. Life is hard, but not impossible. Jojo Diaz, thank you for being an inspiration to me, and thank you for being somebody that I can show my nephew, that I can show all my young family members. Thank you for being a role model in a sport with not very many of them. All right, then. Move on to the next article here. Oh, here we go. Here's some news. Eddie Hearn, the young chap, has come out and said that Alexander Usyk and Derek Chisora, Dillian White and Alexander Povetkin, and Anthony Joshua and Kubrat Pulev are all going to take place in the UK. And to me, it's hilarious because I don't blame Eddie Hearn on this one. Eddie Hearn knows exactly where his bread and butter is at. Despite the fact that he has huge deals in the United States with DAZN, despite the fact that he's becoming incredibly lucrative to his Matchroom boxing promotions in the United States, he still has Europe in mind. Despite the fact that he's becoming a great success here in the USA, Daddy is going home. It's where he can always make a living, no matter what. It's his home base, and it's going to be very, very hard for Eddie Hearn to not pay attention to the UK. It's what brought him to the dance. It's his home. Financially, you can't blame the guy. He goes to Europe, and he's almost guaranteed to make money every single time. We all know how sports are in the rest of the world sometimes, especially combat sports. The United States will throw you out like you're yesterday's garbage the moment you start losing even a little bit of money. Hell, Eddie Hearn's a smart man. And then there's people that say, yeah, of course he has to take these fights over to Europe because these fights wouldn't draw in the United States. And in my opinion, they 100% would. Maybe not as well as with some of the US-based fighters, at least not yet. But I promise you, any of these guys, after a few fights, they would definitely draw money in the United States. Maybe not as much as Mayweather and Pacquiao, Thurman, Porter, Errol Spence, but give them a few fights here. And I promise you, they draw money. I promise you, they draw houses. They're great, great fighters, and people just need to tune into European boxing just a tad. So you can see what it's like in the other side of the world where some of these fights are giant events. Man, I would sure love to see any of these guys come here to the United States. Look at Joshua. Anthony Joshua came here and on his first fight sold out Madison Square Garden. Sold it out hard. So I don't know, I say gave these people a chance. The fact that they're being taken back to Europe, it doesn't bother me. I'll watch it either way. Hell, it might even benefit me since these fights will be on early in the morning here in the United States, and then later on I could watch all the US stuff. Anywho, we're getting near the end of our boxing segment, and we have one more. Tyson Fury says he's going to knock out Wilder. And now his new trainer, Sugar Hill, is saying the same. I don't know, man. Mind games? Good mind games? I don't know. It's insane to me because everybody thinks Tyson Fury is going to do his technical style of boxing, which I think he is. I think it would be best suited for him to do that. But he's been saying he's going to knock Fury out in 2 rounds. I mean, Wilder out in 2 rounds or sometime during the fight. Now his trainer's saying it. I'm sure his camp is saying it. All his friends are saying it. I saw his dad and David Haig into a big old argument on one of those European shows when they were talking about the fight. This thing's going to sell, and it's going to sell well. It's 2 of the biggest heavyweights in the world, and they're going to play punch face. And it's going to be great. So let's go to the dirt sheets for a little bit. Let's see here on BoxingNews24.com. Oh, Keith Thurman plans on returning in late 2020. Late 2020. Keith Thurman not giving a fuck. Taking time off when he wants, however he wants. Keith Thurman, Wilder needs to cloak his right hand. There isn't too much news here on the boxing front. Carl Froch supporting his Englishman, saying Fury is too big and too clever for Wilder. Whatever, bro. I saw George Groves beat you and then get robbed. I'm sorry. I know Eddie Hearn deserves more respect, but man, there's something about him that rubs me the wrong way. It is the weirdest thing. All right, so I think that's it for the dirt sheets. And the only boxing fight that I have on recap here, if I can find it, because I know Guillermo Rigondeaux fought, but I haven't watched those yet, which I will be doing today or tomorrow. But there was a big fight over in Europe, and it was Kell Brook versus Mark DeLuca from Sheffield Arena in Sheffield, England. Just a few years ago, Kell Brook was a huge draw in the UK. Talks of him and Amir Khan inside giant stadiums were happening. Kell Brook was the shit. And then crazy stuff started happening. He started becoming less and less active. He lost a few fights here and there. And now he's trying to prove to the world that a more well-prepared Kell Brook can get the job done. First few rounds of this fight, and Kell Brook almost puts DeLuca away on numerous occasions. Drops him once and then just proceeds to beat him up for minutes on end, just for rounds. And through all this, you have to give the American credit. He's bleeding everywhere. He barely knows where he's at. He's stumbling. He's taking punches to the face over and over and over again. And all he does is smile and says, bring it. And then round 7 starts, and Kell Brook brings it. By this point, DeLuca has been picked apart viciously. Picked apart hard. He gets knocked down in vicious fashion. Blood flies off his face. And that's all she wrote. Winner by TKO in the 7th round, Kell Brook. I don't know if there's still talks of him fighting Amir Khan. I'd still love to see that fight, even though both of them aren't going to draw as well as they would have done years ago, similar to that Mayweather-Pacquiao situation, where they could have fought a lot sooner. Neither of them would have been looked down upon if they would have lost. But it is what it is. Amir Khan wanted to go after the Canelos and wanted to come over here into the United States and try to make a name for himself, which he did to a certain extent. But yep, that's the way it goes. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we move on to professional wrestling. The segment that I am never truly prepared for anymore. Let's see here. Let's see what we got. Let's go to the dirt sheets. Straight to the dirt sheets. Oh, look at this. Some Matt Riddle stuff. Dear Lord. Let's see here. Vince McMahon reportedly not happy with Matt Riddle due to social media posts. Let's read some of this article on WrestlingInc.com by Mark Middleton. Let's see here. It was noted that Vince has issues with Riddle's social media posts and challenges issued with the social platforms, likely the knocks at WWE Champion Brock Lesnar and WWE Hall of Famer Bill Goldberg. Vince reportedly sees Riddle as an outside guy and feels like Riddle has no respect for the hierarchy of the business based on his challenges to Goldberg and Lesnar. That's just fucking obvious. That is incredibly obvious. First and foremost, Matt Riddle is an outsider to the business. He's been in it now. He's a very good wrestler. He's even got decent mic skills, but he's an outsider. And the fact that he doesn't understand that there is a hierarchy, that this is not mixed martial arts, that the way you call somebody out in a industry like this is completely different than you would in an MMA show. He has no respect for the business. To talk shit on somebody like Goldberg at that Super Showdown event about a year ago or less, I can't remember. It just goes to show you he's almost a mark for himself. It is what it is, though. Vince hates him, yet let him, win the tag team championships. So, that's wrestling. Right? That's fucking wrestling. Where a lot of the people that don't deserve to be at the top somehow, some way, get to the top. Riddle put out some inconspicuous tweet that makes no fucking sense. Goldberg, WWE on Fox tweeted, "Who's next? Goldberg's next opponent should be." And then Matthew Riddle wrote, "I'm not going to do what sources are saying I'm not supposed to do. Or am I? What are sources saying? What the fuck?" Okay, bud. Whatever. Let's scroll down here. Holy shit. There was an article by Joshua Gannon, and the title reads, "Minoru Suzuki talks WWE snatching talent away around the world. Says Jon Moxley can't do shit." Holy crap, let's read some of these fucking quotes. Let's see here. Before their title match goes down, Suzuki spoke with New Japan Pro Wrestling about Moxley, why he challenged the AEW star, and what makes Moxley stand out. Here's what Suzuki had to say. "He's a guy who stepped in my house and didn't take his shoes off at the front door," Suzuki said. "The former WWE superstar, Dean Ambrose, changed his look up a bit, and here he is. Look, I've been watching him for a while. Can he grapple? No. Is he strong? No. Tough? No. He can't do shit. Not shit. But that's created a spot for him. It's a bit of a paradox. But it's because of that he got chances in WWE. There's nobody else like him, right? Nobody in the majors in America is like him, so he stands out. Okay, that felt like a half work, half shoot. Here's where we get to the good stuff. Hopefully it's not too long for you people. I don't want to bore you, but later in the interview, Suzuki talked about WWE's attempt at global domination, setting up regional brands like NXT UK. Which, speaking of which, they want to set up an NXT UK, which they already have. They want to set up an NXT Australia, NXT China, NXT Japan. All this is in the talks. I've read all kinds of shit about this. So it might be happening. But anyways, let's see what Suzuki has to say about all this. Japanese wrestling, particularly Japanese, proprietary Japanese. I get this is for NJPW's site, so maybe you don't know or don't want me saying, but WWE are the biggest promotion in the world, right? Suzuki began, and they want to blend all of the world's wrestling together, fold it all in. They're going into all these countries, buying up promotions, snatching away talent, and sapping the business there. But the one place they haven't been able to do that yet? Japan. Japan and Mexico are the only places that have carried a strong sense of wrestling culture that was uniquely theirs. Business is down in Mexico. WWE are getting their claws in there too. But they haven't come here yet because Japanese wrestling has too much presence. Uniquely, Japanese wrestling does. Let's see. The unique Japanese wrestling is something that Riki Dozan made 50, 60 years ago. It used to be about two massive giants throwing hands, made into a show. But the basis of everything, absolutely everything, is combat, fight, martial arts. That's Japanese pro wrestling. That's something only Japan has been able to maintain and protect. Now, you look at NJPW today, there are guys that fly, tag teams with elaborate combinations, guys with female managers, guys who are fair, guys who cheat, but they all represent Japanese professional wrestling. Damn, that's pretty nuts. And he ends it by saying, you can try and deny that, but I think it will always be true. The moment it stops being true, WWE will swallow everything up here. And in all of that, what I've just said, the one single person that doesn't just know about all this, but has been about all this, is me. And for that, we give a giant fucking clap to Minoru Suzuki. And he's right. Japan style is what the WWE style used to be, kind of. Maybe not as hard hitting, but it was based on a fight. And now you have these giant spots that make it look more like a dance than a fight. It's different, but it's true. Japan's still holding that Japanese style of professional wrestling in very high regard. The fans don't seem like they're going to stop watching that anytime soon. God, Minoru Suzuki is a god. Minoru Suzuki is such a great ambassador for the business of professional wrestling. Nuts. Let's see here. Let's moving on. Backstage update on Jeff Hardy's WWE status. This is Mark Middleton, WrestlingInc.com. Jeff Hardy could be returning to action soon, as he's scheduled to be at the WWE Performance Center in Orlando next week. Huh. Well, I mean, I know there's a lot of people that don't like Jeff Hardy, a lot of fans. But the guy is a superstar in the WWE. At one point, he was the top guy there and outdrawing everybody in merchandise, in ticket sales, in pay-per-view buys. There was a point where he was doing all these things. And hell, even after leaving the WWE and going over to Impact and then coming back, he's still over as fuck. Can't hate on Jeff Hardy, even if you do hate him. You can't really hate on his career. Let's see what else we got here. MVP announced for tonight's Raw. Becky Lynch says she should be paid more than anyone in WWE, including Vince McMahon. That's rich. I mean, good for her. She's talking a lot and being known. Top UFC star sees himself working for WWE. Who the fuck could that be? John Jones. A heel. That'd be the only fucking way. Just be straight heel the way he was when he was fighting Daniel Cormier. That's it. XFL TV ratings for Fox debut announced. So Vince McMahon and his insane football league started off their season this past weekend. Let's see what's up here. This one was by Raj Giri at Wrestling Inc. Fox announced that their first XFL game, the Houston Roughnecks defeating the LA Wildcats this past Saturday, scored a 2.3 rating in the early metered markets. The final rating should be available soon. Zach Guzman of Yahoo noted that the audience for the game was 2.77 million viewers, down 16% from the 3.3 million viewers scored by the XFL game on ABC immediately preceding it. So game 1 did 2.3 and second game did 3.3 million. I don't know shit about football. All I know is I'm going to start asking people who actually watch football if they are going to start watching the XFL. Because from what I was seeing all over social media, it was getting incredibly positive reviews. A lot more positive than the original XFL. So I don't know. Let's see. Let's scroll down a little bit more. I think that's it, ladies and gentlemen. Except for Ring of Honor's bringing back Xavier? It can't be that Xavier, could it? The original Ring of Honor World Champion? Xavier, who had these crazy feuds and was in with fucking Christopher Daniels and was with Christopher Daniels at one point? My God, I have not seen that guy in many a year. Jesus Christ. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for Have Fun on the Indies. I'm your host, Abe. Catch me on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook. Use the handle at HaveFunOTI. From there, you can just click on any of the links to listen to this podcast. I hope all of you stay healthy. Love each and every one of you. And hopefully my hangover doesn't kill me tomorrow with all this cinnamon whiskey. Mwah. See you next time.